With elections fast approaching, talk of electoral alliances is top on the political agenda. The most wanted or most sought after party is the former ruling party, the MMD. But for now, the party looks to be embattled. And our guest this evening is Dr. Nevas Mumba. Can he weather the storm in his party? Dr. Mumba, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Grevazio. To those that are watching us, you're welcome to the program. May I take this opportunity to, on behalf of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, to offer our deepest condolences to, first of all, to the management of Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, obviously to the family of our dear sister Faith Kandaba, who went to be with the Lord this past week. All of us really are taken by shock because she became part of the furniture for ZNBC in terms of her brilliance, capacity to handle some of the most complicated interviews. And just a few days ago, she was interviewing me. And so our hearts are broken together with the family and the management here. And we wish to offer our very deepest condolences on the loss of such a great soul. May her soul rest in peace.
Now, Dr. Mumba, coming back to your party, the last week or so, or a month, or a few weeks hasn't been so easy for you. Are you embattled?
Absolutely not. I think that the press has their own view of reporting on matters, especially where information is lacking. I would not say that our party is embattled. I think that our party is being sought after by so many people that would like to have a role in this party. And I hope that your question is referring to some of the people that have been wanting to persuade the National Executive Committee to make certain decisions that would favor them or their agenda. And then the National Executive Committee has remained solid and focused on what they believe is in the interest of the political party. And we do not consider the efforts of those that are either expelled or outside the party as a division within the party. I just want to confirm that the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy is more united today than it has ever been before. We are 55 people on the National Executive Committee, and we are as united as we can ever be on all the critical issues. And I think this is what makes MMD strong at this particular time. It doesn't mean dissenting voices are not going to come from the outside, which is the most interesting thing about MMD, that a lot of interest and comments come from those that are not part of the decision making and they're not even part of our party. And therefore you can see that these are efforts to try to derail our focus. And this is my 4th year as president. I've kept the focus, leading a political party that others would have thought we should have thrown it away when we lost in 2011.
4th year as president, a very turbulent period for you. I think you haven't really gotten to enjoy your presidency. You've survived so many attempted coups, if I may say. You had one, probably at some point, led by the team that eventually had your NEC members turning against you just when you got into office. I do remember that. And then you had another one with a team of the likes of Mohabi Lungu. Now you have a third one. In just 4 years, you probably have had 3 attempted coups. A sign of you not failing to stabilize the party?
Well, I think that the opposite is true. I took this party at a time when you Zambians had decided that enough of MMD. You wanted it in the dustbin of history. We had the PF come into power with a very clear agenda, which they did not hide at all, that we're going to obliterate the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy. So the moment I took this party as president was the most sorrowful moment for the party. Zambians had turned their backs against it. Nobody wanted to hear the name MMD. Nobody wanted to see the symbol of MMD. Nobody wanted to see a chitenge for MMD. They just felt that they had enough. Very critical moment, and that's when I took it up as president. At that time, a lot of people that now are coming back had run away and abandoned it for the dead. And we fought these fights in order to keep the spirit of the party and democracy in the country alive. So I think that if I had not experienced what I experienced, then I would have been very shocked, because there's no former ruling party that loses an election, that does not go through things we went through, even worse. And so when you talk about attempted coups, this party is not removed from the experiences of President Chilua becoming president. And at that time, those people who thought they were more important or they were bigger, they knew more, decided to rebel against him. You remember the National Party was formed with the very big wigs of MMD. And at that time, a lot of Zambians thought MMD would not survive. President Mwanawasa came, and we lost huge big wigs, like President Michael Sata himself. Rebelled against the MMD and started his own patriotic front. Brigadier General Mianda started the Heritage Party. Former Vice President Christon Tembo began FDD with his colleagues. So the party has experienced these things after the change of a president. Then even when President Rupia Banda came into play, we lost the big names like Honorable Magande, Peter Magande, one of the most successful finance ministries Zambia has ever had. Honorable Silva Masebo, who very, very prominent in that, and almost the entire group that supported President Mwanawasa. They left, and that's just the way life is. That's just the way politics is. When I became president, I am even more blessed in the sense that I did not have the major revolt at the same time with 19 people leaving. Like 22 people left during the Chilua.
But that was way towards the end of Dr. Chiluba's reign.
Yeah, but it was the incoming, it was the coming in of, later on we had the Mwanawasa coming in. But at that particular point, I'm trying to prove that there are rebellions against leadership.
Doesn't it concern you, Doc? I'll intervene. Doesn't it concern you that the people that fight for you to stay in office eventually turn around you? The people that all of us deem to be close to you at one point, then eventually they leave you.
They have more expectations than the others. You can say the same thing
about...
Aside,
Lungu fought for you very hard.
Well,
he eventually turned against you and
you
said you needed to leave office.
Yeah, do you know how close...
now currently Mr. Nakachinda who's been very close to you.
But do you know how close...
you're not good for management of the party.
Do you know how close... Malema was to Zuma? Do you know how close Judas was to Christ? Do you know how close they were? He was always in the bosom. And so there is no political leader today who has not had, even in family, some of the people you supported the most, some of the people that you sponsored to go to college and to go to school, they are the ones who abandon you the most. You have that experience in your own family. People that you thought, this one, I've invested my life in them, they are definitely going to stand for me. No human being has any control over another human being, and they decide what they want to decide when they want to decide it. What is important now for MMD is to remain focused on why we exist. I did not expect anything less in the turbulent journey that we have faced, because this party had been packed for the dead after losing the 2011 election. So I think I'm very happy with the fact that we've started to make headway in terms of reorganizing ourselves. There's always collateral damage as you go to war. Some of the people that you are depending on may not be able to perform on the battlefront. You do your very best as a leader to keep them. But you, a human being, not even Christ, kept all of them. At one time, he remained with one and asked him, are you not going to go yourself? He said, where shall I go? You have the words of life. But the truth of the matter is that everybody ran away from him. And that's just life. And if you can't handle that, then you are not a leader. If you can't handle loneliness, abandonment, betrayals that are so deep, then leadership will fail you when you have an opportunity to lead God's people.
Some of the reasons given by the people is that you run the party like a mafia, probably a Christian mafia.
Well, let me put it this way. I think the beauty of the movement for multi-party democracy and the confusion some people have is that MMD does not run like other political parties. MMD arises from the one-party state of UNIP, and in the constitution that we have as MMD, it was meant to deal with the issue of dictatorship, to deal with the issue of the one-man show. So the constitution that we have as MMD separates and divides powers between the National Executive Committee and the presidency, meaning that any decision that is going to be made has to be made by the National Executive Committee. And that is basically the position.
A compromised NEC, for instance?
There's no compromise.
You've taken out a lot of old people, old guards from the NEC.
And
incorporated your own people.
I do not incorporate. These are thoughts coming from opponents of the party, telling that we have incorporated. The constitution of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy gives the National Executive Committee power to elect itself in the middle between the conventions. The party which is on the spot being attacked for democratic tenets or lack of them is a wrong political party. MMD, which you're attacking now for not being democratic, is the only democratic party at the moment in this country. The Nevers Mumba has no power to appoint people in the National Executive Committee except 12, which are constitutionally set aside, 10 nominated and 2 trustees, out of a National Executive Committee of 55 people. And when we go to make decisions, and the debate is going on, and it is very unfortunate that some people would wish to insult the intelligence of 55 people. Not even a president can buy 55 people.
But these are senior people of the party, really. And when you count them, probably on both your hands, and doesn't that taint your faith, your confidence?
Absolutely not. 55 people in the National Executive Committee. Those people who could be outside, like 5 of them, because they were disciplined, then they become champions. And they are not even members of our party. They were disciplined. What do you expect from them? If somebody is injured because they were disciplined for something they did, their comments about the party that disciplined them will always be to annoy those people that are there. Now, let me come back by saying that I think moving forward, colleagues that have been disciplined by the party could learn from committed leaders. In other words, when a party says you have offended the party, do not insult the intelligence and the integrity of that leadership just because you are not part of it. Because the problem we have in MMD now, there are people that believe they own this party. There are people who actually believe up to this day, Nevers Mumba is not a president of MMD. Unless they are president, MMD is weak. Unless they are part of the National Executive Committee, there is no National Executive Committee. That is why when the National Executive Committee makes a decision, they rubbish it. That attitude, in Bemba we say, Ako surile, eko panoko. There is this attitude of where people feel they are so important and they own MMD. And so they will do whatever they want. Even when they're expelled, they still continue to make statements.
And the reality that probably you found the MMD, it had already been created. You went in and you're now kicking out the people that were in the
Everybody found the MMD, the people that are there.
Senior party members.
Absolutely not. The people that are there, almost all of them just joined MMD along the way. The founding members, most of them are not even there. I didn't find them. Some of them are dead. So those who are saying they are their own, the political party evolves and people are born and people grow up and become part of an organization. So if you keep saying we are the original ones, we are the powerful ones, you were not powerful when you came into MMD. MMD made you powerful, gave you a name, made you a minister, made you a vice president. Now because it makes you that, you think that you made yourself. The new ones that are coming, the new members of parliament and the councillors that are going to stand in 2016, some of them you may not even know them. But as they become known, they become part of the National Executive Committee, they win their seats in parliament and council level, they are also being made. So there will be big wigs all the time. That's how life is. So all we are saying is that for those that feel injured by the decision made by the MMD and they want to put it on the president, it's a normal thing. I accept those things because I'm the leader of the party. But they know deep down their hearts that Nevers Mumba in the National Executive Committee, even when the decision for expulsion or suspension are being made, I don't vote. I don't vote because my vote is supposed to break the tie. So these are processes that take place on their own, and I must say I'm very proud of the fact that this political party, many people so-called powerful, have tried to manipulate it. Remember, Grevazio, I made a statement when I became president of MMD. I said that I know there are powerful people in the party, but I have been voted in by the ordinary members from the grassroots. And my serving will be towards those people that have voted me, not to serve the interest of the powerful. And I think that is where most of these problems are coming from.
The issue of money also seems to always come up when there's a fight against you. At one point, people had accused you of probably paying yourself a lot of money as president. And in recently, there was a story which seemingly had a subtle message which said credibility was more important than money.
So I think that the issue of MMD is a very good example moving forward for political parties. I think I sit here as one of the most committed funders to MMD. And even if you came today and spoke to our leadership, MMD in its current, in its form when it lost power, nobody was interested in supporting MMD. People have never asked, how has this president, together with his few colleagues, managed to pull this party so far? Nobody asks that question. The reason is I came as president as a very well-connected person with friends who were particularly interested in my political career, who, from the church point of view, wanted that Christians should get involved in the political process. And under normal circumstances, no business house in this country wanted to help MMD. So the question they don't answer is that how did Nevers manage to run this very huge political party without any income? There's no income. So even when they say Nevers pays himself, from where? There's no income from MMD. I give to MMD. MMD never gives to me because it doesn't have the money to give me. So the ones who are creating the narrative are creating the narrative because they maybe are living in the times when we were in government, when you could get money from some contracts of people that are doing contracts in the country and they work with the party. But we don't have that anymore. Nevers Mumba has to pray, has to think, has to make connections to see how are we going to make this party work. And the money that comes from the members of parliament, which is very limited, it only pays rentals for the secretariat and pays the salaries or allowances for our workers. None of it goes into operations because it's insufficient. So those people who talk about money are people that have really got an agenda that they cannot justify, because all I'm saying to them, put money on the table. Let's run this organization. And they don't. But they talk about it, and they have no idea how difficult and challenging it is to run a political party which has just lost power. But I'm glad that God gave me the opportunity to run a political party in its state, and we are where we are today because of resilience.
Do you sometimes feel like giving up?
Every human being faces those moments. One of the reasons is it worth it? Sometimes you ask that question. It's a thankless job. All I do is to try to hold a political party that other people told me, just let it die. And I think it will be against the interest of the Zambian people who need the MMD to be alive in order for democracy to make sense in this country. The moment MMD disappears, democracy as we know it in this country will be highly compromised. And even the reason you are hearing people talk about conventions and all that, they are not talking about it in other political parties. But they can talk about it concerning MMD. It's a good sign. It shows that this is the only political party that has got events in which people can discuss. The only challenge we have is that we have got people that are not part of the outfit, and the agenda is totally different. But I think that as a human being, yes, Grevazio, everybody, when you read the books of Martin Luther King Jr., many times he had stressful moments. I've had some of the most stressful moments of my life.
So why don't you walk away?
I can't walk away because that's not how God built me. You walk away, you break the destiny for your country, you break the destiny for what God wants to do in the nation. What I went through in the church world to develop one of the biggest ministries, not only on the African continent, was so painful, totally misunderstood, being called, the same thing that is happening to me in the political arena. They told me, give it up. Just give up. It will not work. By the time I handed over Victory Ministries to my associate, it was at that time one of the highest charismatic ministries, not only on the continent but around the world. But it came through tears, just like I'm shedding tears now. So giving up is not an option. What is important is to pay the price in order to take this thing where it rightly belongs. And I'm very proud that we have fought a resilient fight, and I'm grateful to my team and those that have remained strong to make sure that MMD has its current culture and its current picture and color at the moment.
There's just been one simple call from your members, a convention. Why are you not giving the people a convention? Why are you not giving your members what they want?
I want to answer your question by dissecting it in two. First of all, you are saying your members. I want to speak to you and to you through the Zambian, to the Zambian people. Our members are not asking for a convention. Those are not our members.
You only expelled some after they called for the convention.
No, absolutely
but they've been members all along. But they've said, you need to go for a convention.
No.
You are illegally,
I think what you need to do,
after April, you'll be illegally in office.
Grevazio, I think that what you journalists need to do is to study and not listen to people on the streets. Study what MMD believes in and where MMD is today. You are already making a position which is totally illegal, and it's in court right now. So I want to guide you that MMD remains democratic in the manner that we hold our conventions. The people that are calling for the convention, they didn't start to call for this convention now. They started to call for this convention after I was 1 year in office, because they believed that their person or their people should have been presidents. So that's, where do you call for a convention after 1 year somebody's been in office, or 2 years after somebody has been in office, when they are claiming that the tenure is 5 years? The truth of the matter is that the last convention of MMD was in 2012. And anybody who says 2011 is being mischievous. So what do you call the 2012? Was it a conference? Was it a seminar? That was a fully constituted convention. So they can't rub it off like it never existed. There was a convention. When you say which was the last convention of MMD, it's 2012. 2012, 5 years, finishes in 2017. In any case, even if my term was finishing in this year, the National Executive Committee of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy is mandated by the constitution of our party to determine, it's the only body that can determine the date of the convention. And if you go back into the history of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, the National Executive Committee in 1991, when they had the first convention, the next convention they had, the NEC decided they were going to have it in 4 years. So the 5 years didn't finish because they have power to vary when the convention is going to be held, depending on the political developments. The next convention of the MMD took place 6 years later. The National Executive Committee looked at, first of all, the political situation in the country and how does the party protect itself going into an election. So they extended it to 6 years. The third one was 4 years by the same National Executive Committee. And the last one in 2011 they're referring to, it came after 6 years. And it might shock you to know that our constitution talks about 5 years. And yet, ever since the inception of MMD, there has never been a convention that has been held after 5 years. Never.
So your party hasn't been that democratic after
It's not that. It's because the constitution itself gives power to NEC to vary the dates, depending on the political scenario that is prevailing. It has power to say we are going to have it next year, next month, 2 years from now. It does have that legal authority, and that is in the constitution. Now, our National Executive Committee, which looked at the issue of the convention, looked at 3 points in determining whether we should have a convention at some point this year or not. Number one, they looked at the legality of varying the date. And it was found out from the legal opinions that we had that it was not cast in iron that they had to have or rather that the term of the president, let me backtrack, that the term of the president, which is 5 years from 2012, expires in 2017. There's an argument that the other regular convention was in 2011, and the mandate of the NEC members
will expire in 2016.
So the challenge the legal team had was to how do they reconcile the two terms which are at variance with each other. The president's term expires next year. The NEC members' term expires this year. And so when they went back into the precedent and the Constitution, they discovered that the NEC had power to vary the dates and to be able to cure this variance of the two terms of office. And that is when they said, then we're going to move it forward in order to synchronize the NEC and the president's term. They could not take my 1 year away from me because that would be infringing on the right of the president.
But isn't it a bit on the logical side to say that you were completing a term for former president?
No, I would have been finishing the term if I was elected by NEC and I was acting president, like President Mwanawasa was, President Rupia. They were acting presidents, awaiting a convention at which they needed to present themselves. To the contrary, our party decided to have a full-fledged convention because they chose not to go the route of the National Executive Committee, which will produce an acting president who would finish off the former president term. They chose that in the opposition, if you have an acting president with a limited mandate, he would not survive, and the party would not survive. And they were right, because with all that we've gone through, if I was an acting president, they would have had 4 presidents by now. But because they chose the convention, the moment a president is elected by the convention, he triggers 5 years, regardless of when, from the moment that he's elected. So, but that's not the only reason, because I personally do not mind giving up 1 year or 2 years of my time. But that was not the only issue. The NEC had to look at the politically, of us having a convention 2 months before the election, or 2.5 months before. And they realized that with what we've gone through, it has taken us 4 years to try to have some kind of semblance of unity after the division that was created by the many candidates that stood against me or with me in 2012. And just when we are trying to heal, you have had all these upheavals, some of the people in between trying to destabilize the party. Can you imagine if we went to a convention in, say, May or April, end of April, May, because we have to prepare for that. So there will be about 2 months before the election. If there will be 5 presidential candidates, then there will be 5 camps that will be produced from that.
That you may need to heal after
that. May need to heal. Let me finish.
You have declared.
No, let me finish. 3 of them, or let's say 5. So you go to that election and you are in a non-factor. And it's up to the National Executive Committee to consider all those things. The third thing they considered was the logistical aspect of why are these other political parties not talking about conventions? They haven't had conventions.
They're more organized. They're probably not fighting, not throwing stones at each other.
So you agree that it's because of some people wanting to fight that they want a convention? Because the others are not even talking convention, and their mandates have expired like 8-9 years ago. But nobody's talking about it. So you realize that there's an agenda that some of the people want to do. Because if you sit rationally to think of, if you have the interest of the party at heart, you are going to make a decision that is best on what is in the interest of the party. That if we go to August 11 divided, we stand absolutely no chance to do anything. And I think that's what the National Executive Committee decided. And the concept of saying it's Nevers who decided because I'm the president, even if I was not president, the National Executive Committee decision makes more sense than those that would like to do otherwise. First of all, legally, the NEC is sound on that issue. Secondly, politically, they have made the right decision because it is going to frustrate the unity that is needed going to August 11th. And thirdly, the resources that are going to be needed to organize such an event that will only lead in a split political party will be huge, which could be used on the mobilization. And I think that when I look at the decision they made, I think it was a worthwhile decision, even if I was not president.
You declared that you're ready to win a convention, even if it was called tomorrow or today.
It is
so
true.
Why not give it?
It's
for the
not
sake
for
of peace.
Me. No, there will be no peace. The convention will not bring peace. Even when I win, these people that are talking will not stop. And that's the irony of it. Because you think that when we go to the convention, then we solve our problems. But many political parties like UNIP went to convention. Immediately, it's the same repeat they want that happened in UNIP. The late Honorable Musokotwane agreed because of pressure to go to a convention. And they said they to be more united. And they removed him from the presidency. And the party began to collapse because now there was no precedent. Anybody can call for a convention, and they ended up having 5 presidents within 6 years. And that is really what cost UNIP the position that they have acquired in the political sector today. So for me, I think that even if I was not president of MMD, what the National Executive Committee decided is what anybody who's got MMD at heart will decide. But those who have got personal ambitions, that unless they are the ones there, those who never rest, even when Nevers wins in the next convention, because they have personalized the fight to an individual. And according to them, unless they're there. So I think that we're at a place where the National Executive Committee has made a decision. And our advice is as follows, that in the interest of moving forward, those people that would like to continue to assert the decision of the National Executive Committee, they have taken this matter to the Constitutional Court, seeking for interpretation of our Constitution. And there the case rests until the courts decide. Then we'll pick it up again. But for now, it's water under the bridge, because some of our colleagues decided to seek the wisdom of the courts. And because it has gone to the courts of law, I think it remains incumbent upon all of us to respect that the court is going to give the interpretation to this clause that some of our friends have a problem with. So for me, I'm comfortable that it's in competent hands of the courts to be able to make determination.
Let's move on and look at the issue of alliances. With the coming of the 50+1 clause in the Constitution, so many parties feel the way to go is alliances. You agree with that?
Yeah, I think the day that President Lungu signed that amended constitution in the stadium, the entire political scenario in our country changed. And any politician who fails to acknowledge the fact that the politics will not be the same, again, might suffer great defeat in this coming election. So, as a party, we had a National Executive Committee meeting in which we needed to now address the necessity or the need for alliances. And we did pass in that National Executive Committee a resolution that at whatever appropriate time, whether prior to the 11th of August election or during the runoff, somewhere either before or after, MMD should not be closed to the concept of alliances. Because at some point, the political parties are going to need a partner or partners in order to cross the threshold of 50%+1. So in principle, the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy is an agreement as to the need to have the alliance.
The president did announce publicly that he wanted to talk to the MMD. Have you started talking?
I'm glad that you are putting it in perspective. And I think that for the sake of our people that are listening, it is very good to draw the steps. I was in Mongu on my ongoing mobilization campaign, which is taking me across the country, when the news broke out that President Lungu had made the statement. And of course, he communicated with me to explain to me that it would be a good idea for us to consider getting into an alliance. And we agreed that at the appropriate time, as our programs permit, we need to meet and discuss this further. But I also made mention that in the manner in which MMD operates, yes, I am president. That's why you say when they say I'm running it as a mafia thing, it's not possible. Because as MMD, I have to take this proposal to the National Executive Committee, which I did on the 30th of January at the National Executive Committee. We debated this for more than an hour, for and against. Should we work with the Patriotic Front? What are the positives and what are the negatives? And so we came to a conclusion, and the resolution was reached, that we agree with the concept of an alliance, and we are also warm to the idea of working with the Patriotic Front. When you come back, so they sent me as president to engage President Lungu and look at the modalities or what is going to govern our working relationship. After that message is gotten, then I take it back to the National Executive Committee. Then they look at it. If they are tempted that it's a mutually respectable arrangement. They accept that there is no agenda around or beside, but it is a full throttle commitment to win August 11th and be able to provide necessary support to the Zambian people to have what they want. The people in MMD, the leadership, felt that that is something that we could proceed with. So we are at a place now where the National Executive Committee has cleared me to speak with President Lungu. That meeting hasn't yet taken place, and therefore I do not have a report to give to you as to where we are in terms of the alliance. But we will be sitting down. Don't you think
it's taking too long to probably sit?
These are very sensitive matters. We've never been here before as a country with a constitution like this. And you can rush anything you want, but I think, to me, there are many forces at play. You must understand that when President Lungu announced that he would like to work with MMD, the reaction was almost sudden across the board because it was like all hell broke loose. Before that, I didn't realize that people would react like that. And then I found out that a lot of people reacted because they realized that that arrangement would win in August 11th.
So is this arrangement based on principle, based on the need to win the election?
It's based
Come what may?
It's based on both, but mostly on principle, for MMD, as a matter of fact. People are asking that what is the relationship between PF and MMD to even consider working together? You must understand that in countries where a constitution of this nature exists, it's about give and take. It's like a marriage. A marriage is a partnership. It's almost an alliance between a male and a female. And the reason why we come together, male and female, is not because we believe in the same thing or we look the same. It's actually our differences that promote our need for unity. What a man has, a woman doesn't have. What a woman has, the man doesn't have. It's the differences that bring us together. So we are of the view that MMD and the Patriotic Front, if and when we conclude the talks, which are not yet concluded, by the way, and it's important for me to state that, when we conclude this, we are going to have a working program upon which we are going to base our relationship. MMD strengths, in this case, you are going to find out that the way we run the economy of this country, the way we cared about people's welfare in terms of the economy, will be contributed to the table. And Zambians will recall how they lived under MMD in terms of the economy and how we excelled internationally as an example of an African country that can succeed. MMD gave that to Zambia. So I think that when we come into a partnership, we will contribute to the partnership our strengths, the beauties of MMD, and those things Zambians liked, but get rid of those things that Zambians didn't like. And the same thing, get ideas from the Patriotic Front of their hunger for infrastructure development. But we have to actually combine these two with a resource envelope. So I think that once we come to a place where we agree on something, we will be able to tell the Zambian people what is the basis of this marriage or this relationship, because we would have already gone through it and discussed it.
Mm-hmm. There was a condition given by the president that you needed to reconcile. You needed to put your house in order as MMD. But from what we're seeing, court cases and people disputing, even just to issue a statement that you had agreed to start negotiations with the PF, it was a big issue.
I think
contradicting statements.
No. I think that those who understand how MMD works and how strategically it is positioned, they know that people are going to want to get on board with MMD. But we will not lose focus. MMD, like I said, is being attacked from the outside. And anything that is coming from the outside and not from its membership is only there to be managed by the leadership. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm providing that leadership of ensuring my colleagues understand that the route they may want to take of trying to take us back to 2015 will not work. The issue of reconciliation, for instance, between myself and President Banda, like I've said before, it's not a matter of the alliance. I think it's the right thing to do. I want to stand before God and be able to say that, yes, at one time my elder brother and I had a difference, but we sat down in the spirit of reconciliation, and for the sake of the people we lead, and reconciled our differences. Even if that doesn't lead to an alliance, The very fact that President Banda and myself would have reconciled would have been sufficient enough to make me realize or feel that we have achieved something. So for me, I'm not doing this for the purpose of the alliance. Any reconciliation I'm going to make with anybody is based on what the Bible expects from me and what God expects from me.
There's a question and a real concern that probably the MMD is being overrated in terms of impact.
I don't think so. I think that those who are politicians...
Probably doesn't matter where the party moves, whether you move to the UPND or move to the PF. Really, the impact is not there.
If that was true, then the fight would not be this vicious. If MMD's role in this coming election was negligible, the fight that is going on as to where MMD goes would not be there. You must understand that we suffered what we suffered last year in January because our legs were tied. We were gone in 3 directions. And a good politician understands that this scenario is different. It's not just a presidential by-election. Members of parliament will be fighting for their constituencies. Councillors will be fighting for their wards. The president will be fighting for the presidency. It's a whole machine that will be working now. The results will be totally different. And of all the parties in the country now, only MMD has such an extent of structures to all provinces that they realize that with me and us going around the country as we've been going, inspecting the structures, bringing them back to life, explaining to them that the challenges of yesterday are over, and now we are one united party. This thing that is evolving now across the country will definitely become a major factor in this coming election. And anybody who thinks that MMD will not be a factor in this coming election, I think they will be saying that in order to quench their own anxieties. But we know that moving forward, MMD is going to really wield its power.
Mm-hmm. And you probably were not much of a factor in 2015.
No, because...
Maybe as an individual.
No, I wasn't, because...
You were even beaten by Nawaku.
Yes, I was beaten by Nawaku, and anybody else should have beaten me, because our situation was terrible. And those are the issues of leadership that somebody must be agreed to. When Mr. Sata lost terribly when I stood with him in 2001, I beat him in Lusaka. I beat Mr. Sata in Lusaka in 2001, by far. But that didn't stop Mr. Sata to think that there's something that will never happen to me that our colleagues need to know. The value that God has placed on me will not be determined by the number of votes. That will not happen to me. Votes vary, they change today from tomorrow. I mean, from yesterday to tomorrow. And so we had circumstances. My leg, I don't know whether you have ever played soccer, Grevazio, with your legs tied. And even if they put you and give you a penalty and the goalkeeper is removed and you are tied with your legs, you will not score. We could not score. I could not score. My party was paralyzed. And people enjoyed the fact that our party got paralyzed. Even if there was no goalkeeper, it's a miracle we even got the votes we got. So am I going to continue to cry about that? Is temporal failure going to define Nevers Mumba? Absolutely not. When I started church work, I failed so many times. People told me, never forget being an evangelist. You are a failure. But I believe that when God calls you, he doesn't say it's going to be easy. You are going to look like everything is lost. And it takes a moment in politics and also in life for fortunes to change. And for me and the movement for multi-party democracy, our goal is to remain focused. It's because, Grevazio, we have remained focused that today we can be courted by other political parties as partners. If there was nothing in MMD, President Lungu is not somebody who does not understand politics. He does understand politics. He looked across the scope of the politics and says, I think if we partnered with MMD, we are going to change the fortunes come 11th of August. He knew that. So he wasn't doing that because he had nothing else to say or to do, or there was no other political party he could talk about or to. No, that's not why he did that.
Are you going in this alliance for personal reasons, probably as Nevers Mumba, to benefit, either become vice president? But
how can I go there for personal reasons when I'm not the one who called for this alliance? And I think this is something the journalists have to help us with. I am not the one who called for this alliance. So to say Nevers Mumba is going there for personal reasons, I didn't even know President Lungu was going to make this request.
If President Lungu, for instance, didn't call for this, would you have initiated?
I don't know. I don't know. Because like I've said, it's the National Executive Committee that makes these decisions, not Nevers Mumba. So the way MMD works...
As a party, would it have been on your mind to move into the August 11 elections as an alliance?
Okay, let me put it this way. MMD has never initiated an alliance. We have been approached by the two major parties to consider, the two other parties to consider an alliance. We've never initiated one. But I think I need to put it on record that it is fair for Zambians to give the right narrative that MMD was approached. And we are doing this in respect to the president's offer. That's why I took it to the National Executive Committee. And it is there that the mandate was given to me to speak to President Lungu and tell him that the MMD is ready to consider a working relationship and an alliance, towards that election if the conditions are right. Now, what does that mean? An alliance to work in politics, both sides must be happy. It's like a marriage. If MMD is not happy or PF is not happy, there's no need to sign anything. There's no need to have an alliance because there will be no energy to make the victory a reality.
How many parties have approached you apart from the PF?
I think we've been approached by one party, which is huge, and this is the second time that we've been approached. So
you do not want to mention the name of the other party?
There's no need. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. But the point I'm trying to make is that this is the second time we've been approached. But this is the first time we have, as NEC, decided to respond to one proposal because we think that if the conditions are right, it would not be a bad idea to consider. So
have you been approached by the UPND?
Well, I do not know whether I should call it by the UPND, but the President Hakainde and myself have spoken about this issue.
This year?
I think we spoke about, could be last year, about the possibility of an alliance. And we have not made substantive progress on that issue because it has never come, I've never taken it to the National Executive Committee. But this particular one has been taken to the National Executive Committee because of the constitution that has come in place. And so, yes, we are considering this, but only to the extent that it's a mutually respectable alliance. And if it is, I think that it will give energy to both the political parties to campaign in such a manner that victory will be guaranteed. And I think that it is important to put that on the table, that if both sides are happy, then it looks and it's going to be a good arrangement. And even looking at the reactions of some of our opponents to this proposed alliance, and I'm calling it proposed because it's only proposed, you can see that there is something they see that it can work. But even MMD wants to be sure that this is a partnership of friends that have decided to achieve a certain common goal with mutual respect. Once that is done, I do not think the National Executive Committee will have a problem with it.
Two things on this alliance. The president has already announced his running mate will be female. Does that affect your desire to get into the alliance?
I've just been explaining, Grevazio, that we have not signed a single document.
You have not set any parameters of what you want when you get into the alliance.
Don't ask me the question before I answer this very critical question you've asked. When you ask a question, you wait for the answer. The issue of President Lungu announcing a female running mate does not affect me, does not affect MMD, because we are not in an alliance with PF as it stands right now. PF is running as an individual party. Like I said before, President Lungu should be given the freedom to run PF. He is the president. He is running a political party. I am running the movement for multi-party democracy. Like I said 2 days ago on Radio Christian Voice, yesterday on Radio Christian Voice, I said that we have two very prominent females that have given their names to be running mates in MMD. I can't stop them because there's no alliance yet. So if I end up with a running mate, President Lungu ends up with a running mate, negotiations come, then we have to put our running mates on the table. They have to be discussed as well. And say, we have the running mates here, what do we do with them? And both the parties are mature enough to know how to proceed. So whatever happens now with PF, I think they should be given room to continue
So
running.
it's not that you're going into this alliance hoping you will be the running mate.
We are going into this alliance because we believe it is the right thing to do, and the issue of the running mate will be on the table to be discussed. And you know, I need
Not with personal interest for yourself.
No, but
particularly as
let me
members
put it
Mumba,
this way.
I want to be running mate.
No,
and I'm
no.
going to this
Let me
alliance.
go a little further than that. I am not into this alliance because I want to be running mate. No, I am president of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy. All presidents are running for the presidency of Zambia, including myself. So if you reduce me to just fighting for the running mate, then you're bringing MMD to the level where you're saying it's not a political party. Okay? Forget what happened last year, the challenges we went through. It's still a political party. It's still a party with structures across the country, and we have started the mobilization. So we are going into these talks knowing fully well that we respect PF as it stands. And PF looks at us and says, we respect MMD as it stands. It's only on the table that we can discuss these issues of running mate, members of parliament, councillors, governance policies. It's only on the table, not here on television, because this has to be left for me and the president and PF and the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy. So I think that it's premature for you to ask that question at the moment.
Another issue that is going to come up is the PF has opened its doors for aspiring candidates to apply. Most likely, some of your members are going to apply to stand on PF.
It is, whenever you go to an election.
So you see they'll run away from your party, probably.
We need to pray for you so that you
before
can become a prophet
before you sit, before you even sit to
that's not our, that's the list.
Out an alliance.
That's the list of our concerns. I think that as it stands now, as we go towards the election, MMD is going to open up the application for members of parliament and councillors on the 1st of March. It will be publicized across the country, and MMD will start to receive the applications for those who would like to stand on our party. The way the politics run is that once you go to a general election, people are looking this way, they look the other way. Which party should I stand on? Should I abandon my party? And I give counsel. Let me take off my political hat and put on a pastoral hat. My pastoral hat and guts tell me that the only politicians that are going to make it in this election, members of parliament, are those who are going to stay steady. Steady with their parties. Steady with the parties they have served. Those who are going to jump ship, try to go and eat from a plate they did not prepare. That plate has honors that on that day they will come alive. That even if for some reason the leadership of that political party forces their leadership to bring somebody else from another political party, the grassroots there of the party where he comes from will not vote for him, and the grassroots of the party where he goes will be in rebellion against him, and they will lose. The people that will make it in this coming election are those who are steady. They go through difficult times and good times.
You're trying to psych them probably, but
no, I want them
examples
to know.
In the past speak against that.
No, but
most of all your members who've probably had their seats declared vacant in court have all moved.
It's not
and
true.
It's not all a good number have moved and stood on the.
So what are you trying to project? You're trying to project that
one political party have an exodus.
No, these are, you see, when May comes, and I think this is why I'm saying journalists should also read politics. When May comes, Parliament is dissolved. There's no member of Parliament. Everyone is like you, Grevazio. They will have no seat. They will have no constituency. It remains now for parties to adopt either the old ones or new blood. So this is a beginning of it. There's no one who's going to be a member of Parliament after May. There will be no member of Parliament in this country. So it will now be up to each political party to adopt their members of parliament. And for those who want to go to another party, they can only adopt one candidate for a constituency. So if you leave your party where you're standing and you go and try on another political party, they already have their person there. Once they don't adopt you and you try to come back to your party, nobody's going to accept you because somebody would have already been adopted in your place. It's a demand for morality and integrity for the first time. I think this election
Not
is
a popularity contest,
No,
as
it's
always probably been.
No, I think that people would have to knock on their morals to see how they're going to move forward. Because sometimes you want to prove a certain point and lose it all. And people should stay with their parties in order for them to have a chance in this coming election. And I'm just saying now I put on back the political hat and we can proceed.
Expulsions, we're seeing them if people cross?
No, absolutely
If they
not.
apply and you discover before you open up your applications
That what?
that others have applied on the PF?
No,
Or
I
done
think
much
you
earlier?
can't apply double. I think that's just a moral issue. If somebody has applied to 2 political parties, then once we find out that he's not a candidate for us. Listen, we do not have a problem with potential candidates. MMD doesn't. So the issue of saying some people will move, some people who are in PF, who are threatened that they will not be adopted, are already talking to us. They're talking to me to say that we are not sure, we are not comfortable here. Please do not close your house. And so this will continue to go on until the election takes place. But I think that what is important is to make sure that we remain focused as a movement for multi-party democracy. And this is what we're doing at the moment. I'm delivering leadership. We have gone through turbulent waters, but we are here because we have been resilient to protect democracy and to protect our party.
Dr. Mumba, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching Sunday Interview, and our guest this evening was Dr. Nevas Mumba, the president for the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy. I'll be back next week at the same time. Pleasant viewing.